The Galactic Council's emergency assembly hall buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 species gathered around the massive holographic display. Ambassador Zeftar of the Crystalline Hegemony manipulated the controls with his elongated fingers, his usually calm demeanor cracked with visible concern. "Esteemed colleagues," Zeftar's voice resonated through the universal translators, "we face an unprecedented crisis. The planet Terra has been officially classified as a Class II Deathworld." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Several representatives instinctively moved back from the hologram, showing Earth's blue marble spinning peacefully in space. The Vorthak delegates' breathing apparatus wheezed faster, while the aquatic Nereid ambassador's tank bubbled frantically. "Class Duoti," squeaked Representative Piplo from the diminutive squealer race. "That's beyond our classification system. We only go up to Class X." The massive form of General Thokran, a battle-hardened Krunian warrior, leaned forward in his reinforced chair. Even he looked disturbed. "I've fought on Class 8 worlds where acid rain could dissolve our strongest armor in minutes. What could possibly warrant a Class 20 rating?" Zeftar gestured, and the hologram zoomed in to show Earth's surface. "The analysis is disturbing. This planet contains atmospheric gases that would be lethal to most of our species. Dihydrogen monoxide falls freely from the sky in massive quantities, capable of drowning entire populations. The gravity is extreme, nearly 10 times what most of us consider survivable." The display shifted to show Earth's wildlife. A great white shark materialized in the hologram, its rows of teeth gleaming menacingly. Several delegates actually shrieked. "These creatures," Zeftar continued, his voice shaking, "exist solely to hunt and kill. Look at this monstrosity, designed for nothing but efficient murder, and it swims in the same dihydrogen monoxide that covers 71% of the planet's surface." The image changed to a grizzly bear catching salmon, then a lion stalking across the savannah. Each new predator drew fresh gasps of horror from the assembly. "But surely," interrupted Ambassador Velmoth of the Peaceful Confederation, "no intelligent species could evolve in such an environment." "That's exactly the problem," Zeftar replied grimly. "They did." The hologram shifted to show humans going about their daily lives. The assembly watched in stunned silence as people walked casually through what the aliens saw as a hellscape of death and destruction. The dominant species, they call themselves humans, not only survived this nightmare world, they thrived on it. They've built massive settlements, developed advanced technology, and somehow achieved spaceflight despite living in conditions that would kill most of us within moments. Dr. Silana, the chief xenobiologist for the scientific collective, stood with trembling legs. "Ambassador Zeftar, surely there's been an error in the readings." "Perhaps the sensors malfunctioned?" "I thought so too," Zeftar admitted. "We sent 3 separate survey teams, all confirmed the same impossible data. The temperature variations alone should have prevented any life from evolving. The planet experiences temperature swings of over 60 degrees Celsius. The atmospheric pressure at sea level would crush most of our people." He manipulated the controls again, showing footage of humans surfing massive waves, climbing mountains, and running through forests filled with dangerous wildlife. "Watch this," Zeftar said, highlighting a video of a human swimming in the ocean. "This being is voluntarily submerging itself in dihydrogen monoxide while surrounded by predatory creatures. It appears to be enjoying the experience." The squealer delegate fainted. The Nereid ambassador's tank needed emergency filtration as stress chemicals clouded the water. "There's more," Zeftar continued relentlessly. "They consume the flesh of other creatures, sometimes while those creatures are still chemically active with toxins that would poison us. They deliberately expose themselves to the star's radiation for something they call recreation. They've even created competitions where they intentionally subject themselves to physical trauma. The hologram showed footage of extreme sports, mountain climbing, skydiving, marathon running. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as humans pushed their bodies to limits that defied logic. General Thakran, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "This changes everything we thought we knew about Deathworld adaptation. My people evolved on Kroon, a Class 6 world with constant volcanic activity and poisonous atmosphere. We thought we were tough. But these humans, they make us look like soft-shelled juveniles." "The implications are staggering," Dr. Silana added, having recovered enough to speak. "If they can survive on such a world, what happens when they reach space? What happens when they encounter normal, civilized planets?" Ambassador Velmoth's peaceful nature was visibly shaken. "They might see our worlds as paradises, but what if their very presence contaminates our environments with their Deathworld adaptations?" Zeftar nodded gravely. "The Science Council has been debating this for cycles. Some believe we should immediately quarantine their system. Others argue for careful study from a safe distance. But there's a third faction." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the assembly. "Some believe we should make contact. They argue that any species capable of not just surviving but flourishing on a Class 12 Deathworld might possess knowledge and abilities that could benefit the galaxy. But at what cost?" The chamber erupted in arguments. Representatives shouted over each other, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the cacophony of fear, curiosity, and heated debate. "Silence!" General Thakran's voice boomed over the chaos. "We cannot make decisions based on fear alone. I've seen what happens when civilizations ignore potential threats, but I've also seen the consequences of attacking something we don't understand." "What do you propose?" Zeftar asked. The massive Kroonian stood, his battle scars visible across his armored hide. "We gather more intelligence. We study them from afar. We learn their capabilities, their intentions, their technology. Then we decide whether they're a threat to be contained or an ally to be courted. And if they discover us first?" Piplo squeaked from her recovery chair. Thakran's expression darkened. "Then we pray they're as peaceful as they appear. Because if they're not..." He gestured to the hologram, still showing Earth's deadly beauty. "We'll be facing an enemy that considers this a nursery world." The assembly fell into uneasy silence, each representative contemplating the same terrifying thought. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, an entire species had evolved on a world so hostile it broke their classification system, and those beings had just achieved spaceflight. Dr. Silana activated her personal communicator. "Science Division, this is Dr. Silana. I need immediate authorization for Deep Space Observatory Array 7. We have a new priority target." As the delegates began filing out, whispering among themselves in dozens of languages, Zeftar remained at the controls. He zoomed in on a particular region of Earth, watching a human family having what appeared to be a recreational gathering near a body of water. They were laughing. On a world that should have killed them a billion years ago, they were laughing. He shuddered and powered down the hologram, but the image remained burned in his memory. In 70 cycles of diplomatic service, he had never encountered anything more terrifying than happy humans on their Deathworld home. The real question wasn't whether humanity would survive contact with galactic civilization. The question was whether galactic civilization would survive contact with humanity. 6 months had passed since the emergency assembly, and the Deep Space Observatory Array 7 had been working around the clock. Dr. Silana stood before the latest gathering of the Galactic Council's Xenological Committee, her tentacles trembling with exhaustion and excitement. "Colleagues," she began, her voice carrying through the smaller but more specialized chamber, Our observations have yielded results both fascinating and deeply concerning. The holographic display activated, showing a montage of human activities that the scientific team had catalogued. Ambassador Zeftar leaned forward, his crystalline features reflecting the blue glow of the hologram. "We've identified what we believe to be their greatest adaptation," Dr. Silana continued. "It's not their physical resilience, though that remains extraordinary. It's their psychological conditioning to treat extreme danger as normal." The display showed humans engaging in everyday activities that made the assembled aliens recoil in horror. Children playing in parks where massive predatory birds circled overhead. Families gathering food from plants that the Galactic database classified as toxic to most known life forms. "Watch this carefully." Dr. Silana manipulated the controls. "This is what they call a beach vacation." The hologram showed a crowded beach where thousands of humans lay exposed under their star's radiation while waves crashed nearby. Some were actually entering the water voluntarily, despite the presence of various marine predators. "The radiation levels alone should cause immediate cellular damage," whispered Dr. Kethra from the medical consortium. "How are they not dying?" "They are," Dr. Silana replied matter-of-factly. "Constantly. Their cellular structure is in permanent repair mode. They've evolved to accept continuous low-level damage as normal. But here's what's truly remarkable. They've learned to enjoy the process." She highlighted a group of humans playing a game involving a spherical object, running across sand that registered temperatures hot enough to burn most alien feet. "They call this recreation. They deliberately seek out these experiences for pleasure. Our psychological analysis suggests that humans actually require a certain level of danger and discomfort to maintain mental health." General Thokran, who had insisted on attending these sessions, despite the civilian nature of the committee, grunted thoughtfully. "Combat stress addiction. We see it in veteran warriors sometimes, but an entire species?" "It gets more complex," Dr. Silana continued. "We've observed their response to what they perceive as mild environments." The scene shifted to humans in what appeared to be climate-controlled indoor spaces. Many seemed restless, agitated, or lethargic. When deprived of sufficient environmental challenge, they create artificial ones. They build structures specifically designed to cause themselves discomfort and stress. They call these gymnasiums and sports arenas. The hologram showed humans lifting impossibly heavy objects repeatedly, running in circles on mechanical devices, and engaging in simulated combat scenarios. The aliens watched in bewildered silence. "This is voluntary?" Ambassador Velmoth asked weakly. "Not only voluntary, they pay others for the privilege, and they compete with each other to see who can endure the most artificial suffering." Dr. Kethra's medical scanner was working frantically. "The energy expenditure alone, they're deliberately pushing their bodies beyond optimal efficiency. This violates every principle of biological conservation." "Unless," interjected a new voice, "conservation isn't their primary survival strategy." Everyone turned to see Professor Nimdir of the Evolutionary Sciences Institute floating into the chamber. The ancient being's energy form flickered with patterns that indicated deep contemplation. "Professor," Dr. Silana acknowledged respectfully, "you've been analyzing the data?" "Indeed. And I believe we've been approaching this entirely wrong. We've been viewing humans through the lens of survival-based evolution. But what if they represent something different?" Nimdir manipulated the hologram to show Earth's geological history. "Look at their planet's past: mass extinctions, climate catastrophes, asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions. A normal species would evolve to hide, to conserve, to avoid risk." The display showed various Earth animals: rabbits hiding in burrows, turtles retreating into shells, creatures that had evolved defensive strategies. "But humans," Nimdir continued, "they evolved to attack problems. When faced with cold, they didn't grow thicker fur. They killed other animals and wore their fur. When faced with predators, they didn't develop better hiding. They developed better hunting. Every challenge made them more aggressive, more adaptable, more likely to change their environment rather than adapt to it. The implications hit the chamber like a physical wave. Several representatives activated emergency communications with their home worlds. "You're suggesting," Zeftar said slowly, "that they're not just Deathworld survivors. They're Deathworld conquerors." "Precisely. And now they've achieved spaceflight." Dr. Silana brought up the most recent observations. "We've detected their first attempts at what they call terraforming. They're already planning to modify other worlds to suit their needs rather than adapting themselves." The hologram showed human space stations, lunar colonies, and preliminary plans for Mars modification. The technology was primitive by galactic standards, but the ambition was staggering. "They want to turn other worlds into versions of their death world," General Thokran realized. "They're going to spread their nightmare environment across the galaxy." "Wait," Ambassador Velmoth interjected. "Perhaps we're misunderstanding their intentions. Maybe they don't realize other forms of life exist. Maybe they simply don't know they're creating hostile environments." Professor Nimdir's energy patterns shifted to what the universal translator interpreted as sardonic amusement. "I'm afraid not. We've intercepted their communications. They're actively searching for what they call extraterrestrial intelligence. They know we're out here." "And they're coming to find us," Dr. Silana added quietly. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The reality of the situation was becoming clear. An entire species that viewed Class South Deathworld conditions as home was actively expanding into space, looking for neighbors. "What happens?" Piplo asked in a voice barely above a whisper. "When they find one of our garden worlds?" Dr. Kethra consulted her medical scanner. "Based on their environmental requirements, they'd likely see our most hospitable planets as, what's their term? Vacation destinations." "No," Professor Nimdir corrected. "Worse than that. They'd see them as places suitable for their elderly and children." The terrifying implications sank in. To humans, the galaxy's most beautiful, peaceful, perfectly balanced worlds would be considered nursing homes and nurseries. "We need to revise our first contact protocols," General Thokran declared. "If they can survive and thrive on a class-themed world, our standard diplomatic safe houses won't protect us from accidental contamination." "Contamination?" Dr. Silana asked. "Think about it. They exhale compounds toxic to most of our species. They carry bacterial colonies that are adapted to survive in conditions that would sterilize our worlds. Their very presence could alter our biospheres." Ambassador Zeftar activated his personal communicator. "Council Emergency Session 77 Alpha. Authorization, Xenological Crisis Protocol." As the others began filing out, Dr. Silana remained at the controls, reviewing the latest data streams. The humans had just launched another spacecraft, this one heading toward what they called the outer system. They were learning, growing, expanding. And according to the trajectory calculations, their exploration pattern suggested they were actively searching for signs of intelligent life. "Computer," she said to her personal research assistant, "calculate probability scenarios for first contact between humans and galactic civilization." "Processing." "Dr. Silana, I'm getting contradictory data. The scenarios range from complete disaster to unprecedented opportunity." "Explain." "If humans maintain their current psychological patterns, they could either completely destabilize galactic civilization through their aggressive adaptation strategies, or they could provide solutions to problems we've never been able to solve." Dr. Silana stared at the hologram showing Earth's impossible blue beauty. "What kind of problems?" "According to their history, humans excel at survival in situations other species consider hopeless. They have experience with environmental catastrophe, resource scarcity, and conflict resolution under extreme stress. They might be the only species capable of helping us handle genuine galactic-scale threats. For the first time since this crisis began, Dr. Silana felt a flicker of something other than fear. Hope. Terrifying, desperate hope. The emergency klaxons wailed through the Deep Space Observatory Array 7 as Dr. Silana rushed to the command center. After 18 months of observation, the moment everyone had dreaded and anticipated had finally arrived. "Dr. Silana," her assistant called out, multiple arms working frantically at different control panels. "They've detected us!" The main holographic display showed a human spacecraft that had somehow appeared at the edge of their observation zone. It was smaller than expected, almost primitive-looking, but it was definitely there. "How is that possible?" Dr. Silana demanded. "Our observation posts are equipped with the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy." "That's just it," her assistant replied, pulling up the technical readouts. "They didn't detect our technology. They detected the gravitational anomalies created by our mass displacement fields." Dr. Silana's tentacles went rigid with shock. "They're using gravitational mathematics? That's theoretical even for us." "It gets worse. The human spacecraft is transmitting in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, geometric progressions, and what appears to be musical patterns." The transmission began playing through the universal translators. A haunting melody filled the command center, followed by mathematical concepts that made the station's computers work overtime to parse. "They're trying to communicate," Dr. Silana whispered. "They found us, and they're trying to talk." Her personal communicator chimed with an emergency message from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Zeftar's voice crackled through. "All observation posts report immediate status. The humans have simultaneously detected 7 of our installations across their system." 7. Out of 9 total posts. The most advanced surveillance network in galactic history had been compromised by a species that had only achieved spaceflight 2 years ago. "Dr. Silana," her assistant called urgently, "the human ship it's approaching our position." The hologram showed the sleek craft moving with impossible precision through a field of asteroids that should have shredded any vessel of its size. The pilot was threading through gaps that their computers calculated as mathematically impossible. "How are they doing that?" Dr. Silana breathed. "I think," her assistant said slowly, "they're treating this like another one of their recreational activities." Before Dr. Silana could respond, her communication array lit up with an incoming message. Not from the Council, not from her superiors, but from the human ship itself. A human face appeared on the screen. Dr. Silana had seen thousands of humans through their observations, but seeing one looking directly at her, knowing she was there, was entirely different. The being had what humans called brown eyes, and they seemed to sparkle with something the universal translator interpreted as curiosity rather than hostility. "Hello," the human said in what their database identified as English. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Endeavor. We've been hoping to meet you for a while now." Dr. Silana found herself frozen. After months of observation, debate, and preparation, first contact was happening casually, almost conversationally. "I know you can understand me," Captain Chen continued. "Your gravitational signatures suggest technology far beyond ours, and we've detected pattern recognition scans of our communications networks. You've been watching us." The human smiled, and Dr. Silana remembered from their behavioral studies that this facial expression indicated pleasure, not aggression. Though on a species from a class-themed Deathworld, the distinction might be meaningless. "We're not offended," Captain Chen added. If we found a species that had evolved on a world like Kepler 442b, what you probably consider a normal planet, we'd want to study them carefully too. The question is, are you ready to talk? Dr. Silana looked at her assistant, who gestured frantically at the communication controls. Response protocols? Her assistant whispered. There are no protocols for this, Dr. Silana replied. She activated the transmitter. This is Dr. Silana of the Galactic Scientific Collective. We have been observing your species. Figured as much. Mind if we come aboard? We brought gifts. The casual nature of the request sent shockwaves through the command center. Dr. Fraus, Silana's assistant, pulled up biological contamination warnings, atmospheric incompatibility alerts, and psychological profile cautions. Captain Chen, I'm afraid that direct contact might be problematic. Our species have very different environmental requirements. Oh, we know. We've been working on that. The human ship's cargo bay opened, revealing what appeared to be a sophisticated environmental suit designed for non-human physiology. Dr. Silana's instruments immediately began analyzing the technology and found it surprisingly advanced. Where did you get those designs? Dr. Silana asked. Captain Chen's smile widened. We built them. Based on gravitational displacement patterns and electromagnetic signatures, we estimated the likely physiological requirements for your species. Had to make some educated guesses about atmospheric needs and pressure requirements. Dr. Silana's assistant ran the specifications through their computers. Dr. Silana, he whispered urgently, these designs would actually work. For us, for the Squealers, for at least 12 different galactic species. You designed universal environmental suits without ever meeting an alien species? We've had a lot of practice designing for extreme environments, Captain Chen replied matter-of-factly. When your home planet is constantly trying to kill you, you get good at life support systems. Against all protocols, against all common sense, Dr. Silana found herself authorizing docking procedures. 20 minutes later, she stood in the station's main conference chamber, watching 3 humans remove their helmets and breathe the carefully filtered atmosphere they'd prepared. The Deathworld survivors were examining her space station with the same casual interest they'd shown toward Earth's murderous wildlife. Impressive artificial ecosystem, Captain Chen commented, looking at the hydroponic gardens that were essential for the station's survival. Very efficient atmospheric recycling. Though you might want to increase the carbon dioxide levels, your plants could handle more stress and grow faster. Increase the stress on our plants? Dr. Silana asked weakly. Sure. Plants are tougher than you think. These look almost bored. Dr. Silana's assistant leaned over to whisper, she's right. Our botanical stress tests indicate our plants are operating at only 60% efficiency due to our protective environmental controls. We brought some gifts, announced Lieutenant Rodriguez, the ship's xenobiologist. He opened a container and began pulling out items that made Dr. Silana's instruments go wild. This is coffee, Lieutenant Rodriguez explained, holding up a small bag. It's a recreational stimulant from Earth. Non-toxic to most carbon-based life forms, though you might find it a bit intense. This is chocolate, added Engineer Kim, producing another package. Also recreational food. Warning, it's mildly addictive, but pleasantly so. And this, Captain Chen said, pulling out a final item, is music from Earth, various styles, all mathematically structured to be pleasing to different auditory processing systems. Dr. Silana stared at the offerings. You brought recreational drugs and psychological manipulation tools as first contact gifts? The 3 humans looked at each other and burst into laughter, a sound that, while harmless, sent primal fear responses through Dr. Silana's nervous system. Sorry, Captain Chen said, wiping what the database identified as tears of amusement from her eyes. We brought things that make life more enjoyable. We assumed that any species capable of space travel would understand the concept of pleasure. Your psychological profiles suggest your species finds improvement and optimization enjoyable, Lieutenant Rodriguez added. We thought you'd appreciate efficiency enhancements. And entertainment, Engineer Kim concluded, because space travel is incredibly boring without good music. Dr. Silana realized that these Deathworld survivors had spent months preparing for first contact, not by developing weapons or defensive strategies, but by trying to figure out how to make other species happy. Captain Chen, Dr. Silana said slowly, what do you hope to achieve through contact with galactic civilization? Learn, Captain Chen replied immediately. Explore. Help where we can. Your technology is obviously more advanced than ours, but we've noticed something interesting about your species' distribution. She pulled out what appeared to be a primitive tablet device. You're all clustered in what we would call safe zones. Planets with minimal geological activity, stable climates, peaceful ecosystems. It's like you're all living in retirement communities. Those are normal, healthy worlds, Dr. Silana protested. Sure. But what about all the rest? According to our surveys, about 60% of potentially habitable worlds in this sector are experiencing some kind of environmental crisis. Volcanic instability, climate fluctuation, aggressive ecosystems, resource conflicts. Dr. Silana's assistant checked the galactic databases. She's correct. We classify most of those worlds as uninhabitable. Right, Captain Chen continued. But what if they're not uninhabitable? What if they just need a different approach? Engineer Kim activated her tablet, showing terraforming designs that made Dr. Silana's scientists gasp. We've been thinking about how to help stabilize those worlds, not by avoiding the problems, but by working with the natural systems to find balance. You want to fix broken worlds? Dr. Silana asked incredulously. We want to heal them, Lieutenant Rodriguez corrected. There's a difference. Fixing implies something is wrong. Healing means helping something reach its full potential. For the first time in galactic history, Dr. Silana found herself looking at another species and feeling not fear, not superiority, not even curiosity, but something her translator struggled to identify. Hope, mixed with awe. These Deathworld survivors hadn't come to conquer or to hide. They'd come to help. Captain Chen, Dr. Silana said finally, I think the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. Captain Chen smiled, that terrifyingly peaceful human smile. We certainly hope so. After all, what's the point of exploring the universe if you're not going to make it better? As alarms began chiming throughout the station, indicating incoming communications from the Galactic Council, Dr. Silana realized that everything was about to change. The Deathworld rating had been absurd, not because it was too high, but because it had completely missed the point. Humans weren't dangerous because they survived on a lethal world. They were remarkable because they had learned to thrive there, and now they wanted to share that knowledge with everyone else. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the most terrifying thing about monsters isn't their claws or their fangs. Sometimes it's their kindness.